Very ordinary council meeting. We apologise for the short delay. We had some technical issues, but we are back on now. Item 1, acknowledgement. We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Yorta Yorta peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders. We celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Item 2, privacy notice. This meeting is being streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website, along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at the meeting, including personal or sensitive information, to any person who accesses those recordings or minutes. And we do welcome former Mayor and Councillor Jeff Dobson to the gallery. Item 3, governance principles. Council considers that the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9(2) of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are as followed, and they're listed 1 to 9 on page 5, councillors. The page to item 4, apologies received. Item 5, declaration of conflict of interest. Councillors, do we have any conflicts this afternoon? No, very good. Item 6, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Councillors, are there any of the minutes opposed? No. Can I have a councillor please put that forward as a motion? Councillor Eddy.
I recommend that the minutes of the 17th December 2024 council meeting as circulated be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Eddy. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Schubert. Councillors, all in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Item 7, public question time, nil received. Item 8, deputations and petitions, nil received. Councillors, we go over the page to page 7. Item 9.1, Greater Shepparton Municipal Emergency Management Plan 2024 to 2027. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Schubert.
Yes, the recommendation is that council note the Greater Shepparton Municipal Emergency Management Plan 2024 to 2027 as attached.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please?
No.
Councillor Eddy, thank you. Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would. Look, this has been a huge exercise completed by council staff and others, and the Greater Shepparton Municipal Emergency Management Plan 2004 to 2027 has been developed in accordance with the Emergency Management Act 2013. It addresses mitigation of emergency risks. It also addresses preparedness for response to and recovery from emergencies within the municipality. Developed by the Greater Shepparton Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee. This committee is a multi-agency committee whose members bring organisational and local expertise to the task of emergency management planning for the municipal district. The Greater Shepparton MEMPC is a multi-agency collaboration group whose members bring organisational, industry or personal expertise to the task of emergency management planning for our district. Member agencies include, but are not limited to, Ambulance Victoria, Victoria Police, Fire Rescue Victoria, Country Fire Authority, Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Action, Parks Victoria, Vic SES, Red Cross, Goulburn Broken Catchment Management Authority, Emergency Recovery Victoria, Agricultural Victoria, Ethnic Council, Rumballara Aboriginal Cooperative and the Victorian Council of Churches. Look, that's a very, very big list, and it's great to see so many people involved. Building safer and more resilient communities is an ongoing process requiring strong connections and partnerships between communities, emergency management agencies, all levels of government, business, industry and non-government organisations, including the not-for-profit sector. This approach that Council has been instrumental in aims to guide a range of different people to connect and build on combined strengths while better understanding the likely impacts and consequences of emergencies that may affect them. I think it's an outstanding document and I have no trouble moving and supporting the document. Thanks, Mayor Saley.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Councillor Eddy, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Saley.
Councillor Eddy, are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? It would be remiss of me to not make some comments about it, acknowledging the hard work that Louise Mitchell and her director have put in. developing this plan. It is often said when emergencies arise that if you've got existing personnel in the building that have been through it and can deal with it right then and there, great. If not, people come and go. And as they often say, it's really important that you have a live and updated document sitting on a shelf that can be picked up and help us deal with any emergency that we're faced with, albeit that while we're going through that process and hope that we don't have any of these types of emergencies arise at any time. We know they're inevitable, and there is a lot of preparedness that goes into supporting our community and as they often say, making sure that we get our community in a position to deal with any emergency in future years. So I commend the work that's gone into it. This is on the back of dealing with an extreme circumstance. So well done to you and your whole team, and more broadly the council organisation that have all got to be hands-on when and if we're faced with emergencies and rolling out these types of plans. So if there's nothing else, councillors, we will go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, page 14, item 10.1, councillor internal resolution procedure. There is a recommendation. Can I have the councillor put that forward as a motion? Then Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. I'd like to put forward the following recommendation: that the council adopt the councillor internal resolution procedure as attached.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Can I...
Sorry, point of clarification. I've just noticed that we've started a trend of moving recommendations, not motions, and I just query whether the wording needs to be changed in what we're moving.
Recommendation as a motion, or?
No, they've just been moved as recommendations.
I don't even know. Councillor.
Wording has just been, I'd like to move the recommendation.
Sorry,
I just don't know whether it needs to be tightened up or not.
No.
So moving the recommendation of it, saying that. It's not saying as a motion. Is that okay?
Yep, as long as it's being that once moved.
Cool, that's fine then. Thank you for clarifying.
Councillor Brophy.
Thank you. Yes.
Would you like?
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry, did you get a second, or is that after?
No, so I'll go to you to just start again.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Motion to move the recommendation.
The recommendation to move, which is that the council adopt the councillor internal resolution procedure as attached.
Thank you. Councillors, can I have a seconder? Councillor Akers. Councillor Bradford, would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, thank you, Mayor Sarley. Look, this can be a bit of a tricky area, really, and by and large, councillors conduct themselves professionally, with compassion and with respect. We have observed that that has not always been the case in maybe some other municipalities, and maybe, I dare say, maybe years ago in this particular chamber, many, many years ago. But I'm proud to have been with two cohorts of elected councillors who maturely, somewhat robustly sometimes, but respectfully, argue the toss and resolve any differences. And it is okay to agree to disagree at times. When that is not the case, a procedure is needed, and hence we have a councillor internal resolution procedure. Is it perfect? Well, probably not perfect there, but as you won't cover every particular circumstance of an argument or a dispute. But in the main, it will cover most of the conflicts that do arise. I think it is important to have it, and I think it is a good solid start.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just quickly, I mean, let's hope that we never have to use this part of this recommendation, but we need a process in place. And I mean, I think we're working very well together, but it's important that there's a clear process that everybody understands that they can follow if they've got any grievances or issues. But happy to second.
All right, thank you, Councillor Akers. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Summer.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. I'd like to foreshadow a motion at the beginning, please, that the council continue to develop the councillor internal resolution procedure with the option of external mediation to be included.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. We'll deal with that if this motion doesn't get up. Would you like to still speak against the motion?
Thank you. Yes, I believe that we're still in our honeymoon stage, and you might not think that you'll be in need of this procedure, but I was a veritable Girl Scout when I first needed internal resolution, believe it or not. It can happen to anyone. So the objective of this procedure is listed as 1, minimise cost and disruption of disputes to council and individual councillors, and 2, where possible, avoid disputes escalating and becoming the subject of internal arbitration. So this policy was written by lawyers in response to staff asking for an efficient process. This should be the first red flag because it does not consider the human element of disputes. As to the second point, this procedure fails in its objective to avoid dispute escalation. If you'll allow, I will explain how this procedure does not actually protect against anything. First and foremost, far too much responsibility is put on the mayor and councillors to sort out the matter. There is little to no consideration for conflict of interest or factions that often drive internal disputes. From personal experience, I can attest not all parties necessarily act in good faith towards an amicable resolution. There is not always compassion and respect. Our last procedure went around in circles, and I fear this version is no better. For instance, the complaint is abandoned if the respondent chooses to ignore it for a week, or if councillors fail to elect another councillor to conduct the conciliation with 1 week if the mayor is unable to do so. I'm sure you can see how that's problematic without me needing to point it out. In fact, from an internal perspective, a councillor perspective, we are only at risk of misconduct if we do agree to participate. The procedure reads that council will not pay the costs of legal advice or representation for any councillor in connection with this procedure. Up until very recently, the Local Government Act 1989 afforded all councillors the right to legal indemnity. The new 2020 Act removed this provision, but we can reinstate this protection somewhat in our own policies and procedures. So I'm asking for a modest budget to extend to external mediation where appropriate. It is not uncommon for mayors, deputy mayors, and in fact all councillors to be compromised in any dispute involving council. So an independent viewpoint is often the only way forward. And I do understand no councillor can be forced to participate, but those who do participate should have confidence that the process is robust, fair, and impartial. So if we accept this procedure as it stands, disputes are highly unlikely to be resolved. The disputes are likely to fester and result in the opposite of what's intended. If we don't get this right from the outset, there is a strong risk that relationships will break down. There will be unwelcome and highly publicised interruptions to the organisations like we've seen in the past. Councillors, if we pride ourselves on maintaining a functional organisation, I implore you to vote this motion down and continue to develop it, at least with the inclusion of external mediation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Are there any councillors that would like to speak to the motion? No. If there's any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion, for or against? No. Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Your right to reply.
Look, just pointing out, thank you, Councillor Summer, some very valid points that you've raised there. I think that it isn't perfect. I think that there might be some room for improvement. There would be a review of this particular procedure at some point in time, and it will be looked at. And I think some of the recommendations or some of the suggestions you put forward make a lot of sense. So I think we could be looking at that. As it stands at the moment, it is what it is, and I'm happy to, hopefully, we're not going to use it, but I'm happy for it to stand its test of time until it gets reviewed.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillors, if the vote, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Councillors, page 16, item 10.2, December 2024 forecast review. Before I ask the councillor to put that forward as a motion, there is some changes that need to be made or acknowledged. That attachment 10.2, December 2024 Q2 review. The headings on pages 1 to 112 of the attachment have been updated to correctly reflect the dollar values of the report. Also, projects detailed on these pages at zero values have been removed. Councillors, can I have someone put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor
I'd like to move that the council endorse the 24-25 Q2 forecast review as attached.
you, Councillor Akers. Can I have a councillor second that, please? Councillor Brophy.
That motion.
Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor Sarley. I think, look, my budget was as close to target as this one is for this scale at the second quarter. I'd be very pleased, and I think council and the community should be pleased at where we sit in the budget at this point in time. It represents the December 24 Q2 forecast financial performance for the 24-25 financial year compared to the adopted budget and the forecast review as at the 31st of December 24. as a result of being a pretty good position, the CEO has indicated to us that a revised budget is not required at this point in time because there's not been a variation to the declared rates or charges. The only borrowings planned are those that were included in the adopted budget, and there have been no changes to the budget that should be subject of community engagement. So a good position to be in. Just a little bit about the operating position at this point in time to highlight it. The year-to-date budget performance on track. The year-to-date actual adjusted underlying results are surplus at the moment of 53.7 million, which is 2.5 million or 5% greater than the year-to-date Q1 forecast review. So pretty much on track as to where we would expect to be. The year-to-date position's influenced by the generation of rates at the start of the year, so we collect them and count them at the start, and the favourable variance, mainly due to the receipt of roads to recovery recurrent federal capital grants. So that's where the slight difference is, and the financial year progresses and expenditure is incurred, and Council's projecting a full year adjusted underlying deficit of $3.5 million, which is 1.87 million better than projected at the start. So it's once again, it's a better position than was forecast, and that's as a result of an increase in our user fees due to higher commercial waste tonnage at Cosgrove, which is a very positive for the council, and good to see council services perhaps making a profit, and something I guess that we need to continue to focus on other areas where we can generate income other than from perhaps, government grants and ratepayers. So we'll, as a council, I'm sure, continue to look for those sort of opportunities. There's also a bit of extra insurance money come in there from some flood damage and storm events. But at that point, I'll leave what I think's at this point a good position to be in.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Akers. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Saley. There's some, as indicated by Councillor Akers, there's some really good indicators here. The first thing I always look at is the projected full-year liquidity ratio, and which is forecasted at 164%, which is an increase of 9%. And in layman or layperson's terms, we basically can pay our debts, and it's looking pretty good. So that's a really good indicator for us. Factors can contribute to a decrease in that, such as maybe an outlay of funds for a major project, etc., that are not already put into the capital expenditure. But this is a really healthy result, and I'm really heartened to see that our deficit decreasing, particularly when the state coffers look to be in serious trouble. But we, as a council, the finance team, the divisions within council are tightening their belts still whilst delivering all these particular services. And councillors takes a little bit of credit there for the strategically being fiscally responsible for the oversight of the books, and we'll see that as the budget comes forward as well. The second quarter forecast, as indicated by Councillor Akers there, is the adjusted underlying result was projected to being 3.5 million in deficit, down nearly 1.9 million from the Q1. Now that's a great result. That's fantastic. And if we keep at that trajectory, things are really good. Doesn't mean we can get complacent at all. It means that we are heading in the right direction, but we still have a way to go to arrest that deficit.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion?
Thank you. I found this report really clear and easy to understand, so I just want to thank the staff who put it together. That really helps us do our due diligence when it's easy to understand like that. As stated, there's no need for a revised budget because we are on track, and that reduced deficit from the extra 1,000 tonnes at Cosgrove and the insurance that gave us almost $2 million, that's fantastic. But the extra tonnage also comes with extra EPA fees of about almost $100,000, and that's currently causing large variations to materials and services, which is a super volatile line item anyway. So I don't know if this is going to eventuate, but I have requested that waste costs be extrapolated from the general budget, just so councillors can have clearer visibility on financial movements. Under the Local Government Act, all waste fees must go back into funding waste. Therefore, it does make sense to provide a separate waste budget just to have that oversight and prevent leakage within departments. And this measure of separate budgets will be even more important to track investments towards a circular waste economy and ensure we can also perform our due diligence. So I'm just flagging that as a possibility.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Page 20 of the agenda, item 10.3, contracts awarded under delegation, December 2024 to January 2025. This is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor, move that. Councillor Summer.
I think he wants to fire it. Mr Akers can do it if I'm not quite there yet. That the council, I will move that the council, 1, note the contracts awarded under delegation pursuant to a formal procurement process for the reporting period, and 2, note the request for tender advertised but not yet awarded.
You, Councillor Summer. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Akers. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sali. There's some really great things about to happen in Greater Shepparton. Everyone loves that catchphrase. I always love reading this section of the agenda. I always flick here first because smaller projects like these often can go under the radar, but they do mean a lot to our community. So I do appreciate the visibility we get from staff. We put this in this section and it's also great to see local businesses in a lot of these tenders. I probably need to mention remediation of the long-suffering Katanga West Hall. It's exciting because we finally have an outcome that respects the heritage of the city. It is a compromise between the wants and needs of community groups, as is pretty much everything, but it is great to know that the hall will be tidied up and no longer be such an eyesore for the good people of Katanga West. Such a prominent building right in the middle of their town. And we've also got 2 major projects out for tender that will service young people in 2 of our small towns. Bruton flagged for a highly visible and easily accessible pump track in its CBD, and Tatura is progressing a new skate park. So the pump track has deviated a long way from the original concept of letting kids build their own dirt bicycle jumps, but again, it's a compromise that I hope will be supported and appreciated by the community, Mooroopna community and beyond. So in short, this is a very exciting delegation period, so I'm more than happy to note the contracts.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Summer. Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Oh, I think Councillor Summer's done a great job, but yes, as the Katanga is just down the road, I would be glad to see that tidied up, and it'll be interesting to see the outcome from that, but hopefully the community will be pleased with the result, and I see Katanga is also lucky enough to be getting some tenders for new toilet block called for as well, so let's go Katanga. But good to see council being able to get contractors and awarded, and some interesting tenders called for as well.
Thank you, Councillor Akers. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 24 of the agenda, item 11.1, Duty Street removal of register. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor please put that forward as a motion? Councillor Akers.
Right, here we go. That council proposes as road authority that Duty Street is no longer reasonably required for general public use, and in accordance with section 17(4) of the Road Management Act 2004 Victoria, that it be removed from council's register of public roads. Propose that Duty Street is discontinued as a road under clause 3, schedule 10 of the Local Government Act 1989 Victoria. 3, authorise that public notice be given of the proposed exercise of power at resolution 2 in accordance with section 223(207A) of the Local Government Act 1989 Victoria, which provides that a person may make a submission under section 223 on the proposed exercise of any power under clause 3, schedule 10 of the Local Government Act 1989 Victoria. 4, authorise that public notice is given in accordance with section 114 of the Local Government Act 2020 Victoria, which provides that before selling land, council must give 4 weeks public notice of its intention to do so. Undertake community engagement in accordance with council's community engagement policy, and obtain evaluation of the land which is made not more than 6 months prior to the sale or exchange. And 5, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to undertake the administrative procedures necessary to carry out Council's function to give effect to this resolution.
Thank you, councillor Akers. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Schubert. Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, thanks, Mayor Sarley. Happy to move this resolution, and I think this is all about moving Shepparton forward, and we've got to do more of this type of thing. Duty Street's in North Shepparton. It's a street that is no longer required and is surrounded by land owned by one tenant. As we move forward, I think we need to look to move on a number of isolated blocks of ground which have little use for council going forward, and if we can, if they can be used to progress and help Shepparton develop, then we should take the opportunity to move them on and get commercial value back for them, and then use that value for Greater Shepparton. I think point 4 is the one that highlights what we've got to do. It will be advertised. There is notice to be given to the public, and we will get a commercial valuation before it's actually sold, and that will come back to council. But I would certainly be encouraging council to proceed down this path.
Great, thank you, councillor Akers. Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, look, I think the agenda says it all. The road is not required by council for any purpose. Council officers consider the road is surplus to council needs. Without repeating Councillor Akers' comments, I think it's absolutely these are assets that serve no useful purpose. We need, in my opinion, to offload them as when and if required. So,
Councillor Schubert.
thank you, Mayor Sally.
Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. Firstly, I was quite concerned with this particular item when it first was given to a briefing last year on a number of fronts. I was concerned about the removal of a road for a potential commercial use. I was concerned about the inability to maybe extend that road at some given point to the new subdivision that's opening up there. And certainly I was concerned about the family to whom the road was named after. Now, it's clear now that in the executive summary that the intent and the rationale, and that council officers have informed, that they've actually reached out to the Doody family, which is terrific, and also been able to quantify as to why we're going there. Now, of course, an investment group had approached council to consider the sale of the road, and as pointed out by my fellow councillors, council officers consider that the road is surplus to our needs now and not required. I'm buoyed by the fact that council will give public notice about the selling of the road, and then following the public period, that council will consider all submissions in there. And I'd just like to pay homage that the road was named after Robert Doody, a contract shearer, who owned the property in Cemetery Road, now Balaclava Road, and he later moved to Skene Street. So just in terms of the Doody family, it's nice to have that respect.
Great, thank you, councillor Brophy. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you. Just of transparency, the report does make it clear that the intention of the motion is to sell the parcel of land to Lascorp. They own the adjoining land, so it makes good business sense for them. But it's not a golden handshake, as the land is proposed to be sold at valuation price, so it should be a win-win if it does go ahead. And as stated, it is a fast-growing area that one day may necessitate expansion of this road. So I do look forward to reading any submissions we may get, either for or against, leading up to our decision about whether or not we should sell.
Thank you, councillor Summer. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? No, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 29, item 11.2, draft site waste water management plan 2025 to 2030. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Over, yeah. Councillor Akers. Do you want to? I'll just need you.
Sorry, that council release the draft on-site wastewater management plan 25 to 30 for public consultation for a period of 2 weeks, commencing February 26th, I think it's tomorrow, and concluding on the 12th of March 2025.
Thank you, councillor Akers. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, I second that motion.
Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Once again, I'd recognise the team for putting this document together. I think it is a good plan, and it's a very good document which shows a lot of history. I think if people want to take the time to read it as to what's been out there in wastewater management across the Greater Shepparton, and I think it's particularly the effectiveness of it in our small communities which don't have public sewage available to them. So it's in accordance with the Environment Protection Act 2017. Council's required to develop and implement an on-site wastewater management plan. And we've done this, as I said, we've done this strategic document. It explains the various options people have to implement a system on their property, which I think is really important. And I encourage people to implement a system that will be of least cost and maintenance going forward, having various ones on some of my properties. And I would ask that, you don't want one that you need to be reporting to council monthly with or something like that. So I'd implore the community to read carefully as to which one will take least maintenance and least cost for them going forward into the long term. But I think it is a very good document which sets out where we can go for the next 5 years, and congratulate the team for doing it, and welcome the community to have a good read. We're going to go into, as we said, 2 weeks of consultation. There's a couple of meetings set out. There's a website survey, and we're going to email some stakeholders as well, and there'll be some advertising in local newspapers. But I think it's a good document with a good result.
Thank you, Councillor Akers. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, thank you, Mayor Sali, and thank you, Councillor Akers, covering most of that particular agenda item. Firstly, it is a draft, and that's what it is. However, there's an enormous amount of work that has gone into it. I know Councillor Akers mentioned the team, and they don't like to be pointed out, but there are a couple of people that have really come to the fore in that, and that is Council Officer Samantha Crowe and Sharon Terry. I think certainly applause in regards to that. It goes out for 2 weeks, starting tomorrow to the 12th of March, which we said, for public consultation. In the presentation to councillors just recently, I certainly learned a lot more in this particular area, and it can be complex, but the overriding factors are really about public health and safety when you come down to it. I encourage residents to have a read of this draft, and please provide some constructive feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Summer.
I would say that about 7,000 properties within Greater Shep are connected to on-site wastewater. So that's properties not connected to sewer. So it's really relevant and it's interesting. And like Councillor Akers was saying, it was fascinating going through all the different types that are available. So I'm enjoying this one.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? No. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 37 of the agenda, item 11.3, nomination of Greater Shepparton City Council representatives for Region 2 of the Murray-Darling Association. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sali. I'd like to put forward the recommendation that the Council, 1, nominate Councillor Jeff Akers as the councillor representative for Region 2 of the Murray-Darling Association, and 2, nominate Jeff Dobson as the independent community representative for Region 2 of the Murray-Darling Association.
Councillor Brophy, can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor like to second that? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Lally. For those who don't know, the Murray-Darling Association is a representative body for local government in the Murray-Darling Basin, and formulating policy and contributing local knowledge and regional solution, and has been since the Second World War. There's currently about over 150 councils made up across 4 states, and that make up the particular, and built into 12 different regions. And they meet 4 times a year, and obviously we have councillor representatives on that, and now community representatives have been put there as well. Greater Shepparton is a member of Region 2, and along with other councils being the Federation Council and the Moira Shire Council as well. Greater Shepparton has been very active on the Murray-Darling Association since rejoining the organisation in 2015, and have held the chair position since 2019. The council, as a member of the Murray-Darling Association, is required to nominate a councillor representative to the Murray-Darling Association. The Murray-Darling Association Constitution was amended in 2024 to enable an independent community representative to also be nominated by the member council. The independent community representative position was advertised and applications were accepted through the council's Shaping Greater Shepparton website from the 8th of January through to the 24th. 4 applications were received and assessed by an independent panel. Jeff Dobson achieved the highest overall score. Consequently, the assessment panel has provided a recommendation of nominating Jeff Dobson for that position. Councillor Akers is nominated as a councillor representative. And how great is it to see, from a community perspective, people that have come forward to be key contributors to our society. Even former mayors and councillors, if you like, they've come forward in their capacity, maybe in advisory capacity on some of our advisory committees. Their expertise, their skill and their intellectual property is then not lost to not only council, but also to our community. The likes of people like former councillor Jenny Houlihan, who's been on the Australian Botanical Gardens committee there and making sure that ticks along as well. Or former councillor Kevin Gunnar-Ryan with regards to Tatura Park. And now we have nominated here former councillor Jeff Dobson, a person I certainly I look up to for advice, wisdom, humour and steady reasoning. That is what is required here on this association. People with passion, commitment, and in our corner to work with the different stakeholders, negotiate, and if needed, fight the fight for the preservation of our communities by the reliability of water supply to ensure we remain the food bowl of the nation. The 2 Jeffs, I believe, will do an outstanding job and make us proud.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion? Thank you. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion?
I will, Mayor Saley. I have no problem appointing Councillor Akers to this role. I think it suits him quite well. I don't have any personal issue with Mr Dobson, but I think we've missed the opportunity to put 2 people on this board who have decades of experience in water. That'd be much better for our community if we did that. So.
Thank you, Councillor Eddy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Are there any other councillors that would like to speak against the motion? I'll thank Councillor Dobson, former Councillor Dobson for being in attendance today, but I think what's important to note through this process here is that this is Council's position as it stands now, taking the opportunity to have 2 representatives on the MDA. Councillor Akers is our formal representative, obviously under the council umbrella, and we'll make sure that all important information comes back through here for any formal endorsement moving forward. And this is a new space for us having the 2 representatives. We don't know if other councils will take up this opportunity. So, we look to, like any circumstance that we have with any particular committee, review that after 12 months and determine if this is the most appropriate setup moving forward. But as Councillor Brophy noted before, as long as a Jeff turns up, we'll be right. So thank you. If there's nothing else, we will go to the vote. Oh, actually, sorry, you're right to reply.
Thank you. Just in regards to the applications that were put in, there was an independent panel. It was a very high-level panel that was actually put together, and the assessment was done with all great probity. We've checked through all of that. Councillor Dobson came out on top of that in regards to the nominations. I'm sure the others would have been very adequate as well, and certainly, Councillor Eddy, there might have been others that maybe have not nominated or could have been on there as well. Even other councillors might have nominated as well. But we have who's nominated, and we've got to the stage of where we are at the moment.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Councillors, we go to page 42 of the agenda, 12 documents for signing and sealing. Receive item 13 on page 43. 13.1.1 is councillor activities, December 2024 and January 2025. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Schubert.
Yes, thank you. I put forward the council receive and note the summary of the councillors' community interactions and informal meetings of councillors.
Thank you, councillor Schubert. Can I have a councillor? Yeah. Can I have the councillor second that motion, please?
Motion.
Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, thanks, Mayor Sarli. Look, I think it's great that people have an understanding that as councillors, we just don't sit in these shiny chairs and not amongst the public very, very regularly. And I think it's a wonderful thing to see in the agenda, and everybody can see what the activities have been.
Councillor Schubert. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sarli. Just one alteration to be made to the activities under the Mayor and Councillors Community Interaction and Briefing Program. The very first item there that was attended was the AFL Breaking New Ground funding, the Wanganui Oval lighting and irrigation update. Certainly yourself, Mayor Sarli, was there in attendance. Unfortunately, Councillor Paul Wickham, you weren't in attendance, but it was Councillor Stephen Trelfall. So we'll take Councillor Trelfall off the interchange bench, put him on, and you're back on the bench, Councillor Wickham. Just what it does show is in the last brief period of time that we've been out and about. You know, there may have been some people went away on holidays and that, but councillors were out and about right throughout that period of time. There's certainly a couple of ones of note, the Shepparton Junior Basketball Tournament, where we draw absolutely thousands of people to come to this particular region. Not only the players, but also the parents that come along. They stay here, they eat here, they go around, they shop here. So those particular tournaments are absolutely fantastic. The Tom Cummins stand launch at the Queen's Garden, quite an emotional thing there. The council been heavily involved in making a stand for those with disabilities that can actually get up into a particular platform, and they can actually view and see particular sporting events and other events. Fantastic, and credit to council getting on board with that. And a couple of other ones, Shepparton Carols by Candlelight, celebrating the 50th anniversary. That was a huge highlight. And of course, Rupner, the New Year's Eve festival there, fireworks went off magnificently, and it was well patronised.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor, we'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we go to page 48 of agenda item 14.1, notice of motion 1/2025, review of current Greater Shepparton's CCTV camera network. There is a recommendation. Can I have councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I will move that the Council 1 produce a report that reviews the effectiveness of the current Greater Shepparton CCTV camera network and includes costings and feasibility of implementing a second stage of the program. And 2, review relevant Safer City camera network memorandums of understanding within 3 months with a view to continuing these partnerships. And 3, conduct public consultation across all of Greater Shepparton as part of the review process.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sarli. It's pretty straightforward, basically what you're reading there, but the community have raised concerns about crime levels in our region, and council are very limited in crime prevention measures and what we can do. We can provide safe infrastructure like street lighting that may deter crime, and we can review and potentially expand our CCTV network. That was implemented in 2014. So our current CCTV project has 19 surveillance cameras made possible by partnerships with Victoria Police, the Department of Justice and the Attorney General's Department. And this project was meant to be reviewed in 2017, so I'm bringing that process forward today. Essentially, it's just timely that we assess the original objectives of the MOUs and ensure that they remain relevant and effective. And there's been significant changes to Shepparton CBD since we installed those cameras, so it is likely that crime hotspots have changed. We've upgraded Maud Street, we've got a new mall, small towns are growing. So engaging in consultation across all of Greater Shep will allow us to consider potentially installing cameras in small towns also. The objectives of CCTV is to send a message that we are tough on crime, to improve perceptions of safety, particularly late at night, to reduce antisocial behaviour and property damage, to encourage enjoyment of public and retail spaces, to support local police to detect and respond to crime, and to provide evidence in court hearings like identification. So I do hope there's support for this motion, and I also hope that it will bring us one step closer to becoming a safer region. So thank you for your time.
Councillor Summer. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion? Thank you. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. I welcome this notice of motion from Councillor Summer. I think this motion really is around CCTV camera network, the current arrangement, but also the potential of stage 2. And I think it's very timely that this has come about. I know that during the election period last year and certainly since then, that when asking residents and businesses, particularly in Kialla, what was the most important thing to them, it was clear security and safety was number one thing. And I'm sure elsewhere in the region, there is also increased criminal activity. We see quite often on social media, but also being put up in other areas and in the media too, that CCTVs at home and in commercial businesses and even in Kialla, people stalking out homes, cars, the hooning of the streets. We've seen home invasions and antisocial behaviour and a lot of violence as well. More hidden, as our local police would tell us, is the domestic violence issue. That is their biggest issue, but we don't get to see that as much. The more CCTV, the better surveillance, the better safety strategies is better for our communities. And whether it be the CBD in Shepparton or in Mooroopna or the fast-growing Kialla, I certainly support this notice of motion.
Thank you so much, Councillor Brophy. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I'm happy to support this today. This particular program, from what I understand, came in well before I was even on council and didn't come up at all in the last council term. So it's obviously due for a review. I know it was on the radar through natural sort of workings to come up for a review in the near future, but every councillor's prerogative to decide what the priorities are and bring things forward. So happy to support it today to move it up. I don't really have any intention of what's going to come out of the report. I'd look forward to seeing if it did actually improve crime in any way and whether it's been effective, whether more is the answer, is even the answer. I don't know what any of that's going to look like because, again, we haven't covered this. So this will be new to everyone sitting around the table except for Councillor Summer, who has the experience. But I look forward to what the report and the review will come back with. Really, that's all this is asking for at this time, is the report, the review, the public consultation. And then when we've got some information in front of us, we can really sink our teeth into what a next stage would even look like if that's where it was to go. So happy to support this today.
Councillor Spinks. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Ms Sully. Just very briefly, to Councillor Brophy's point, I hope the review extends a bit further than just Shepparton and Mooroopna. There's certainly some of our smaller towns that crime wave might be a bit of an exaggeration, but that's how it was described to me, some of the outlying areas. So I would like that review to go much further than just sort of Shepparton-centric or Mooroopna.
Very good, thank you. We look forward.
I'm happy to support the motion, very much so.
Right. Any other councillors to speak to the motion? No, we look forward to that review, Councillor Summer, and acknowledging that no doubt this work would have been undertaken at some point because, like most forms of technology, upgrades and determining what the future looks like in any form of infrastructure that we have out and about in our community needs to be reviewed. So I look forward to that and determining whether there's an expansion or further upgrades to our existing network. So commend you on putting this notice of motion forward, and we look forward to that information coming out. If there's nothing further, councillors, we'll go to the vote.
Closing comment? No.
We do write a replies. So no one spoke against it, aren't you lucky?
When did that happen? All right, point of clarification. It was meant to come up for review in 2017. So pushing it forward. If it was in the near future, I wouldn't have bothered.
Sorry, what are you talking about? Sorry.
The CCTV camera project was meant to be reviewed in 2017.
Yeah, I know, but the right of reply.
Yeah.
No one spoke against it.
Yeah, I didn't know we'd put that in the governance rules. I thought we'd
Yeah.
still have a right of.
No, sorry. So thank you, councillors. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 49 of the agenda, item 15, urgent business not included on the agenda. Councillors, is there any urgent business that should be considered this afternoon?
Yes, Mayor Sally, I would like to raise an item for urgent business, as has been discussed with all councillors, to move a motion in relation to the message stick and letter that was presented to me at the Day of Mourning event held in January.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. I'm happy for that to be considered by councillors to be tabled to meet the agenda and then to be decided upon whether we receive and note that letter. Councillors, or I will need someone to move a motion to be tabled for further consideration. So there is two parts to this voting aspect. Can I have someone move that item to be added to the agenda?
I will move that we raise the item to be added to the agenda.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Spinks. Can I have someone second that? Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you. Yes, only to say, as has been discussed with all around the table, I feel that this is the appropriate place for this item to be raised and that it needs to be dealt with at today's council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to the motion? I'll speak to that, yeah.
I'm very comfortable with what Councillor Spinks has said.
Great, thank you, Councillor Schubert. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillors will take a vote for this to be now tabled a part of our business. All those in favour? Motion passed, unopposed. Councillors, I will now ask for someone to move the recommendation as a motion. Can I have someone do that? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I would like to move that the council receive and note the message stick and accompanying letter presented to councillors through Councillor Spinks at the January 26th, 2025 Day of Mourning event.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Yes, I will. Thank you all. I bring this motion to the table today most simply because I was asked to. At the January 26th, 2025 Day of Mourning event, the Aboriginal community presented a message stick and letter to me with the task of passing them on to all councillors. The significance of these items must be understood. The message stick is a traditional form of communication dating back thousands of years and used to pass important information between communities. The letter, which you have all seen prior to today, shares the message conveyed by the physical token. This is not intended as a gift, but as an offering of communication from them to us and as a message of the strength and unity of their community. In essence, the letter speaks to the community's right to determine what is best for themselves, to care for country as they've always done, and asks to walk forward together with deep listening. There were a number of elders and leaders that crafted the message, and at the event itself there were family members from almost every family line of the Yorta Yorta nations. And many of the great families spoke at the event, including multiple generations standing side by side and those whose loved ones were directly involved with the first day of mourning protests in 1938 and with other key moments in the shared history of Yorta Yorta nations and Greater Shepparton. The family spoke to the importance of the date, the past and the future, and the message was presented to me as the final formal item. It was a powerful and important event, and for the Aboriginal community, the meaning behind the message is great. So, having been presented with the message stick and the letter, I've spent the last few weeks trying to work out the most appropriate way to pass them along to all councillors, as I was tasked to do. Our governance rules have no real precedence or grey area for this moment, and it was deemed that a petition or a council report or a councillor report were all unworkable. This has been a learning in itself, but finally I was able to identify two remaining paths to try. The first was for me to put in a notice of motion, but that felt inappropriate as it isn't myself asking, but simply myself as messenger passing this message over to us all. I wanted the voice of the community to remain front and centre, so I was reluctant to use that path and sought a better way. And through discussions with the Mayor, it became possible to raise the item here under urgent business. I recognise that this is unconventional and still does not perfectly fit, as this item is not time sensitive in the regularly considered sense and has not arisen since the creation of the agenda, but it has been considered exceptional to the rule and has been able to be received at the discretion of the Mayor, and I thank Councillor Sally for granting this. And under this discretion, the motion is put forward to only receive and note the message stick and accompanying letter, as this is the furthest extent it could be stretched to under a general consensus of this being the most appropriate path for it to be put to the meeting. I share all of that information to explain the importance and meaning behind the message stick and letter that has been shared with us, and to explain to the group and to the community why it is being raised in this way today. Because I acknowledge that this is a unique situation, and because I've fully explored the best way to bring the items to all councillors, and I hope I have done justice to the task I was given. And so here we are. In front of us today, we have all received and read the contents of the letter, and I've provided the background behind the motion. I, of course, have my own opinions on the matter, but this isn't about me as an individual, and I'm voting independently, the same as you all. I've chosen to use my time to speak to the context of the message and to the process of bringing this item to the table. And in this moment, it is the community's voice that I hope I have raised, and I've made sure it's been shared with you all. But whether you each accept what is in the letter is not for me to decide, it's for each of us to decide personally in our own time. Today, I simply bring this motion to the table to fulfil the task of passing this message on to you all, and I hope that you all will receive it in that spirit. Thank you.
Councillor Spinks. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to thank Councillor Spinks for her community leadership and the way it was brought to us as a council, and for everyone taking that on board.
Thank you, Councillor Wickham. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Just to reiterate pretty much what Councillor Wickham said, thank you, Councillor Spinks, in the way that was delivered to us, and the information pertaining to it, and working through that process wasn't easy, but I think we've achieved what we needed to achieve.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Just before we go to the vote, acknowledge and appreciate Councillor Spinks' collaborative approach in making sure that this has been tabled to give everyone an opportunity in a fair way to consider and to receive and note this letter. Yes, it has been a process to determine where we've landed, and I feel that this is the most appropriate space which has been supported by all councillors here today. It comes back to the point around the internal resolution process that we have in place, that if we have a collaborative working relationship, we can have these moments come to the table and work through the most appropriate steps to have things tabled. And I think we've achieved that today, and I commend you for having the respect of your fellow councillor to allow to have that conversation collectively. So without further ado, and to further acknowledge what's already been said and to make note of the letter, is to receive and note what's being presented from Councillor Spinks. So if there's nothing else, councillors, we will go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Item 16, close of meeting, which I will do now at 4:02 p.m. Thank you, councillors.